Oh, Beeve, I know it's not fair. You have to wait, you're only 7 3/4 years old, and you have to wait all the way till you're 11 to join the Boy Scouts and go on that camping trip with Eddie Haskell and Wally. Well, you know what? In the meantime, you can study your Boy Scout handbook with a painting by Norman Rockwell right here on the cover. In fact, you can come with me to see 65 other paintings by Norman Rockwell, all dealing with the Boy Scouts. Study up on those. Then by the time you're 11, you'll be ready to go. Like my June Cleaver dress. Welcome everybody to Living Figuratively. This is the show that asks the question, why not fill your home with the fascinating faces and figures of people that you don't even know? Why not fill your home with figurative art? Each week, I take you someplace to appreciate figurative art. This week, we're doing probably the most special episode we've ever done, and we're broadcasting a little bit early due to circumstances beyond our control. We are going to the Medici Museum in Warren, Ohio, which is right practically in my backyard, about an hour away from where I live, because due to a series of fortuitous events, or sometimes unfortuitous events, but you can read all about it in the Can Journal, we have here, right here in our own backyard, the Norman Rockwell show of Boy Scout paintings. There are 65 Norman Rockwell paintings in this collection, and they're all collected right here. If you've heard anything about the Boy Scouts over the past, couple of years or so, the collection is in jeopardy because the Boy Scouts might have to sell them or break down the collection and sell pieces to pay for lawsuits and litigation from the sex abuses from their, that have happened over the years at Boy Scouts. So right now, though, the show is all together, and hopefully it will stay together for a good long time, which is why I'm bringing you all here, and hopefully this is being seen all over the world to see the Norman Rockwell paintings. As you know, Norman Rockwell is a very beloved illustrator. He's, I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's an awesome painter. One of the complaints that Norman Rockwell has gotten about his work is that he paints the sort of glorified, idealized version of American history where everything was great when white men ruled everything. This was before women had equal rights, before black people had equal rights, before LGBT people had equal rights, all of which we are still fighting for today. So that is one of the criticisms. At the same time, he is also a phenomenal artist, and he did use his role as a beloved American illustrator and one who plants the seeds of memory into us because he painted, sort of this version of America that we kind of remember that way, and maybe it didn't even happen that way. He used that gently, bit by bit, within the confines of what he was allowed to do. He used it gently to implant empathy and to show us that we can look different from each other and still have common ground. So I give him a lot of kudos for doing just that, and he is also a phenomenally good figure painter. It's very rare to see this many Rockwells all together in one place. The Norman Rockwell Museum in Stockbridge, Massachusetts is the only other place I've seen so many Rockwells, and this collection rivals theirs big time. So, without any further ado, let's get started. I'm going to walk you around the whole thing. Kicking it off right here, this painting represents the Boys Life magazine. In 1910, the Boy Scouts of America bought Boys Life magazine, and they intended to use it as their signature magazine for the Boy Scouts of America, because I think the Boy Scouts incorporated in 1910. In 1912, an 18-year-old skinny, gangly Norman Rockwell, urged by his teacher at the Art Students League, Thomas Fogarty, walked into the publisher's house, or the publisher's office at Boys Life magazine, and volunteered his illustrator services, obviously with the hope of getting paid. the magazine was new enough, they had little enough money, and Norman Rockwell at that point had no reputation, so he would work for cheap, which was wonderful. They paid him, this was 1912, $50 a month to do one cover illustration, a whole painting like this, a whole cover illustration, and to illustrate with drawings one of the stories on the inside. And Norman Rockwell was thrilled to get it. And he also made the stipulation with the contract that he was allowed to accept other work, that this wasn't going to be his only job. So that's why we have other Norman Rockwell works that took place at the same time. So that's what this particular painting right here is all about. I think it was probably done, well, I'm sure it was done in 1960, probably for the calendar, the Boy's Life calendar, which they also put out. So one of the things I am going to point out as we walk through is what a phenomenal painter Norman Rockwell is. Look at this little boy's face. And look at the beautifully done hand that's resting on his shoulder. And just the way he does these, the folds in the fabric and the khaki green, and they really, and look at this beautiful globe right there. It comes out beautifully. It's really, he's just a really freaking good painter. So let's scan around here. We've got a couple. This one right here honors the mothers of Scouts, which I think is a phenomenal thing to do because, you know, no Scout is an island. And he does, when he can, place women into the picture because obviously every boy has a mother. So, you know, and like just sweet details, like this little boy's underwear showing through because his shorts are too big. Maybe they just got handed down from his big brother, and the big brother handed down his Scout uniform, which is a little too big for this guy. So like just that he found those kind of details to humanize things. We'll keep going. This one here, the young Cub Scout is measuring the chest of the Boy Scout who's, you know, trying to work out. And like, okay, the little pencil, the pencil behind his ear. And just, you know, the human drama and empathy that goes on in this one. This one, next one is a little bit more formal. It's the official pinning, I think, a pinning of maybe he's an Eagle Scout. I'm not 100% positive on my Boy Scout delineations, but there again, he's honored the mother by putting her into it, and the father, he's honored the father by putting them into it in this important role. And going away to Boy Scout camp. Here he's got a mom again, you know, with a nice crinoline skirt that you will see again because I kind of like wearing it. And just, okay, the details. Here's this wallpaper. He didn't have to do the wallpaper, but Norman Rockwell did the wallpaper. And that wallpaper is wallpaper that was in 1940s, 1950s homes. This, you know, cute one, the kid trying on his big brother's, you know, Scout uniform. And this one became, there was a poster. So like the collection includes a poster of these kind of things. So let's go, we'll go around the corner. One of the things Norman Rockwell was phenomenally good at was hand lettering, which I totally respect because it's really difficult. I mean, if I ever have a chance to do hand lettering, I print it out on the computer and do it that way. But he's got this gorgeous carved in hand lettering there. And, you know, and the reverence here with this, with the, doing the on my honor part of the Boy Scout, the Boy Scout oath. And here we have the formal, this is sort of the formal area where we've got the oath behind. I will do my best, my duty to God and country. And here's the 3 levels of the Scouts. But he's got the details right, because I know absolutely that the Boy Scouts were total sticklers for that, as far as dressing up in the outfits themselves and as far as representing them on as illustrations. Like the way that this badge is, come closer here. This little badge, I mean, that is just amazing. And he put that in, and this was going to be reproduced, you know, magazine size. So it's only this big, but you know, he had to do it really big to make them be there. And here he's got tomorrow's leader. This is also a lovely, like the way that this beautiful green glow on his face. You know, that is just a luxurious detail of realism that Norman Rockwell was able to capture. Even his knee, like, look at that beautiful knee. That's a beautiful knee. That is somebody who knows his anatomy. And Norman Rockwell studied under George Bridgman, who is he wrote a lot of the anatomy books that are still being used today, and this was 100 years ago. So let's keep on going. Right here, this one has a different little bit of a feel to it, and I'm not sure whether this one was a poster. It seems like it might have been a poster, not the, in fact, it probably was a poster for maybe a Boy Scout Jamboree that was going on in Washington, D.C. But here's this beautiful hand lettering that he's done. You know, he is all about the hand lettering. In fact, all the Saturday Evening Post covers, which there was very familiar circular pattern with the typeface on it, he hand lettered those. He figured it was easier than having his illustrations be cut out and stuck on the type. So now we come to one of the things that Norman Rockwell and this show, you know, there's a little bit of a criticism there. So far, you have not seen any black or brown faces. That is a figment of the time and an indicator of the time. Right here behind me, we actually have the first two that we've come across. These illustrations were from the 1960s, and they were both designed to represent sort of the multicultural aspect of Boy Scouts from different countries. So he was able to and allowed to depict different, you know, black and brown people when they were from different countries. And that was in the 1960s. But let me give you an idea of the kind of publishing world that Norman Rockwell created most of his works in. Back before the 1960s, okay, one of the rules that the Saturday Evening Post had, which was the other publication that he was working for, I don't know what the rules were at Boys Life, but the Saturday Evening Post had a rule that you could not depict a black person on their cover unless they were in a subservient role. Can you imagine that as a dictating, something that you have to do as an illustrator? Okay, so which is why 1946, Norman Rockwell painted this cover. It's called Boy in a Dining Car, and here's this, you know, kind and wise waiter looking at him, counting his change, hoping that, you know, that he's going to be able to pay his bill. But the waiter is in a subservient role, therefore he slipped by the, you know, the racial censors. Back in 1934, Norman Rockwell put together this cover, which depicted a little black boy. And I think it's an interesting thing that they slipped by the censors, because this little boy is not necessarily subservient. He's actually telling this white woman who fell off her horse that her horse went that-a-way. That's all he's doing. He's not her servant, necessarily. He's just a kind bypasser. So, but it's because of the cultural norms of the time that perhaps the publishers said, oh yes, of course, he's a little black boy in a straw hat, so of course it's a subservient role. You know, so that's why this one slipped by the censors. There weren't too many more that he was able, covers or illustrations that he was able to do during those times that incorporated other people from, black and brown people. It wasn't until the 60s and the civil rights movement and stuff like that that he was able to do this, which is my favorite piece of his, very iconic piece. It is, it's called The Problem We All Live With, and it's all about Ruby Bridges, who was the first young black girl to attend an integrated school in Alabama, I believe it was. Might have been Mississippi. I think it was Alabama. And she had to be escorted by U.S. Marshals, and there were picketers saying, you know, with signs that said absolutely horrible things. One of the internet memes that I found very recently is also a photograph of her mother escorting her into this school, holding her hand with absolute defiance and power. It was really, really quite amazing. I posted it for Mother's Day. that she was guiding her daughter into this school because this was her right, and she was protecting her daughter too. So, but for, you know, for Norman Rockwell to paint this and to use his privilege as this beloved illustrator of the fond memories that we all have, where he's actually able to implant these memories by creating these iconic moments, I thought that was absolutely wonderful. I'm going to show you another one, which is perhaps his most dark illustration, also done in the 1960s. This was for Look magazine. Actually, this one was also for Look magazine, the Ruby Bridges one. For Look magazine, he illustrated, it's called Southern Justice, and it's all about the murder of the civil rights activists in Mississippi in 1963, I believe it was, or 65. The Freedom Riders. And so there was an article written in Look magazine about it. The original illustration that he had planned was a 2-page spread where he showed the Southern cops and the Ku Klux Klan along with the murder. But because of publishing constraints and illustration rules and stuff like that, this happens all the time in commercial art, they had to cut it to a single one. And so it became a single spread illustration with just the shadows looming. But, you know, he did, once he was allowed to in the context of illustration, he did step up and, you know, do a lot of racial justice stuff. So that was excellent. So I have to hand it to him. You know, he really awesome illustrator and good conscience. This one right here is the kind of illustration that is really difficult to do because it's a million people and it's very crowded, and he does have one single black Boy Scout in there, and he's got these people in all the different positions, and he's created the human empathy here, where here's this poor kid up there who maybe is sick, he's home with the measles or whatever, or he's not a Boy Scout yet. We don't know, but he's created the human empathy. So let's go around the corner. I'll show you some more. These ones right here are interesting because they are his sketches. This is what, when you're an illustrator, you don't just jump right in and do the illustration. You show them, the publishers, the editor, the sketch, and the art director. You show them the sketch, and then they determine whether that's what they like. So Norman Rockwell did a lot of these color sketches where, you know, he set up the scene already. He just did a quick little representation of what he was thinking. And from these, they judge it and say, yeah, let's go with that, or change this to that, that to this. Here again, he, I don't know what the ultimate one was, but in fact, I don't know whether we're going to see this one. This one was for the Spirit of 76, I believe. Yes, Study for the Spirit of 76. And yeah, he's got that iconic, you know, Boy and Fife scene. This one right here, the way he's painted this one, okay, it's got just a little bit more of a charm and cuteness to it, a little bit more of a stylized charm, but it's so beautifully painted. This is your classic, you know, it's almost like the pinup artist, the way that the you know, the charm and the cheeks and everything like that. And that is a beautiful hand. You cannot tell me that that is not a beautiful hand with the veins on it like that. He's just, you know, just a phenomenal painter. This one has a drama to it over here, which, you know, anybody that says Norman Rockwell is monochromatic and not a colorist, there's color here. Like the way that he's rendered, you know, the boy's face. He's got the blues and the cheeks and even the khaki green uniform has so much color in it. It's amazing, those beautiful hands and the way that they all kind of go off into the darkness down there, and yet there's a lot of color. I don't know, this one might be my favorite piece. I thought another one was. It's hard to say what's your favorite Norman Rockwell piece. This one right here might give you an idea of how he draws to prepare for these paintings. Because he does preparatory drawings, very detailed preparatory drawings, and then transfers them. And So this one, you know, he's got this gorgeous chiseled features. This has that multiple profile concept that he's used, you know, quite often. That was from the Four Freedoms, like where everybody's facing in one direction and thinking and, you know, whatever, being free from want and fear. This one right here is also, one of the things I think is interesting about this, take a look up close. You can see he uses the impasto paint quite plentifully, which for somebody who's an illustrator and, you know, not a painter with a capital P, he really is a painter with a very big, scripty, beautifully well-rendered capital P. You know, the beautiful impasto. Oh, and my gosh, I didn't even notice the horse. You know, that is just a lovely compositional device, you know, and he's kept all that in the background toned to this blue. He's let the canvas shine through. You can see the linen of the canvas. This is a very thick weave canvas. I don't know that I would be able to do such intense detail on such a thick weave canvas. It's, when you do that, it's kind of like needlepoint, you know, like for anybody that's ever done needlepoint, you have to choose where is your stitch gonna go because you have to put everything into the squares. So here's another one. This one, the Scout is Reverend. This one, he touches on the religious aspect of the Boy Scout promise where, you know, you have to be reverent. It doesn't say which church you have to go to or anything like that, but it does say, you know, there's got to be a church and, or maybe not even a church, just the reverence of it. So, beautiful. Let's go on over here. This is one that is quite complicated. You know, he's got the sort of pileup of people. The compositions that he puts together are amazing. He's got this pileup of people that are clustered and going off into the distance in this Renaissance kind of a way, like where there's no weird tangents. In the illustration world, tangents are the kiss of death because they distort the space. So like he's got things, you know, going into each other. He's nicely in front of this backpack and his head protrudes a little bit so it's not tucked into the shoulder. And he, you know, winds the way up there. He's got this, the bedroll. That is so beautiful and perfect. This one's in the same vein where he's got the people clustered together helping each other. You know, the pull of like helping your brother up onto the hillside. And then the whole thing is rendered without any highlights inside of it. In order for this sunset to take precedence because it looks like they're going to get up on this rock and watch the sunset and they've got to hurry up and get the kid and the dog and the other kid up there to watch that amazing sunset that you get to watch when you go on a Boy Scout camping trip. This one right here also, it's like dreaming, the Cub Scout dreaming of all the fun going on the camping trips with the, you know, the multiple clusters of people. It's just, you know, and this little silhouette. The outside shape of things, that's another Norman Rockwell thing that I love and have been super influenced by, is like the outside shape of this little boy. Every single in and out, every wrinkle, every hand, every little piece is absolutely planned and just right to show the shape of this little kid sitting on the chair. He does not have a single defining characteristic within the dark blue there. Not one single wrinkle, not one single anything. And yet, the whole outside shape shows us exactly what it is. Therein lies Norman Rockwell's genius. This is one of his very earlier ones. This is 1918, so this would have been one of the very early ones that he did for the Boy's Life magazine. And you know, it's still brilliant. In 1918, he would have been, what, 25, 22? I can't remember now. He was born in 1894. So yeah, hard to do the math right here on the fly. I can only, you know, do so much. This one right here also is just a sweet moment. And this is another thing where Norman Rockwell is able to cluster the faces, like what he did in the Thanksgiving, the one that everybody knows. He's able to cluster the faces without making them look silly, being clustered faces. And they're all looking at the Boy Scouts, showing them the way, because Boy Scouts, you know, they've got compasses, they show the way, they know how to do it. This one has like a beautiful light and drama to it. This, also another Renaissance quality one. Like I could see this as a Caravaggio type situation where, you know, everybody's looking at the woodworker. So let's see, America builds for tomorrow. So you know, and the floorboards, the details of the floorboards and those little wooden pieces and just the texture that he's got over here, you know, it's really just lovely, lovely, lovely painting. Keep on going. This one's pulling at the heartstrings one. Anybody who loves dogs, he's helping the puppy. The puppy got a splinter or something, and he's helping the young Boy Scout. And yeah, it's just, you know, beautifully rendered dog, beautifully rendered kids. Here's a older iteration of the whole Boy Scout helping the dog concept. So, you know, it seems like it's one of the ones from his earlier days. Red Cross Man in the making. Then here we go, another one with the puppies. And this one also, he's got this amazing impasto, and not impasto in a sloppy way, like impasto in a very targeted kind of a way. Like he's got the leaves and the backgrounds. You know, he's filled in the backgrounds with this nice crunchy paint in order to show these amazing silhouettes. The amazing silhouettes that he's created with the wrinkles of the fabric that just define the positions that these Boy Scouts are in. Here's another one that's gorgeous. I wish it wasn't behind glass, but it is, and I'm sure that, you know, it's not cool to take it out of the glass, but oil paintings should never be behind glass because they create all the glare. This one, I believe, might be one of the most famous ones that everybody has seen. I didn't realize the original was so big. Zoom in though, we'll see that the canvas weave here again is really, really, really big. And yet he's got all this incredible, incredible detail on it. We'll keep on going. Here we go. We've got Boy Scouts and the sailor, listening to the old-time sailor. You know, the fabric here. It's so beautifully, beautifully painted. And like all the details, he's avoided all the tangents. Like it really, when you're putting together a composition like this, it doesn't, oh, I see a tangent that I would not have done right here. But you know what? He's Norman Rockwell. I will forgive him. But that tangent is just a little too close for comfort. Not to, you know, not to be judgy. I would welcome any comments he would have on my work. Here we go again. We have this sort of dark drama right here. This looks like it's an older one. It also, to me, has the feel of Van Gogh's Potato Eaters. I don't know if Norman Rockwell was influenced at all by that particular painting. And then here we go. This one is called Carry On. It's kind of it has a not quite completely developed feel to it. I don't know if this was the final or if maybe it was turned into something else, but it's really beautiful, and the outside silhouette is impeccable, especially with the dog and the hand being echoed. And yeah, the outside silhouette is just, I love that. This particular piece right here actually was on the Scoutmaster's handbook, which I was able to get my hands on a copy of this. Let's look closely at this painting. It's amazing because it's done in all dark, muted tones. There is nothing besides the twinkling of the stars. And all that was designed to make the twinkling of the stars and this sort of moonlight glow on the Scoutmaster's face, and the rope also. The rope is glowing. It was all made with self-restraint so that a few very important things could glow. And they sure do glow. It's really just amazingly beautiful, the way his wrinkled pants are. One of the things that's funny about this particular painting, the original sketch, which I'm going to show you right here, the tents were not Boy Scout regulation tents. They did not have the tie ropes on the side, and they didn't have this little wall. And Norman Rockwell had to paint those in because the Boy Scouts were sticklers for the regulations. So here we've got this beautiful globe here again. This is campfire stories. I mean, you know, what a beautiful, beautiful opportunity for that. Next one over. Next one over. We have Come and Get It. The story behind this one, okay, it started out, I'll show you in just a minute, the sketch for this particular illustration and how that sketch evolved. The sketch started out as something called Grandma's Recipe. Let's come on over here and show you what the sketch was. So Grandma's Recipe is, here's a Boy Scout, brought Grandma's cookbook, trying to put together Grandma's recipe. The whole Boy Scout crew is waiting for him to cook it, and he's not quite sure what's going on. This is interesting because there were 2 black Boy Scouts in the background, which I noticed, you know, they're few and far between, so I thought that was interesting. And it also honors Grandma, and it honors the female influence on the Boy Scouts by, you know, honoring Grandma. But when it went through the various review processes with the editors, they wanted to take the focus off cooking because they didn't want the Boy Scouts to be all about cooking. They wanted it to be sort of a side thing, and really more of the macho activities are what they wanted to take center stage. And we do still have 1 black Boy Scout in this particular illustration. So that was the evolution of that one. We've got the dark dramatic scene. We've got another cluster of interesting shapes with some gorgeous impasto in the clouds. And it's interesting because you can tell he put down the impasto and then he kind of made the clouds, because the swoopiness isn't necessarily the impasto is where the outlines of the clouds are, but it's still a beautiful illustration. Next one over has that familiar look and feel to it, which you've seen in Norman Rockwell paintings like this one, which is called The Golden Rule, which appeared in 1961 on the Saturday Evening Post. And this one has the same thing where they're showing multiple, you know, they have a black Boy Scout, so they're showing multiple races. They're showing, honoring the women of the Scouts, which they have the Cub Scout den mother there. Den mothers have traditionally been part of the whole Boy Scout tradition. And it's a similar feel to the this one, which is called The Golden Rule, where he depicts all different people of all different religions. And one of the things that I notice and love about this is not only does he have all the religions represented, he has this one represented, which is a man of thinking. That maybe he is a doubting person. He is not representing a religion, he's representing free thinking, where maybe you don't have to subscribe to a religion, and that's okay too. So that's one of the things I love. He just puts these gentle reminders in there. That's what Norman Rockwell does, and I give him mad props for that. So we've got more beautiful. These ones are larger faces that you can really see how he's worked on the faces, and they're, you know, really, really quite beautiful. Over here we have another one of the profile ones. It's a signature thing. This one is in the space age. It was probably, well, I'm sure it was after the moon landing, 1969, so I'm not sure what the date would have been, but he's got a little bit more representation there. He's got the history, you know, people from whatever, the founding fathers and stuff. Same over here, we've got the multiple profiles, and just this stormy glow, you know, it's dramatic and really, really, you know, lovely, lovely painting. I'm going to finish up with this painting right here, which he did for his 75th birthday, where the Boys Life magazine wanted him to do a painting with a self-portrait in it for his 75th birthday. And it's called Beyond the Easel, and he's got Boy Scouts looking at him painting. This one here, he maybe will grow up to be a painter, and he's got his own paintbrush. And it's, you know, it was a nice way for the magazine to honor him and celebrate his 75th birthday. So, thank you for coming with me on this little short tour of the Medici Museum and the Norman Rockwell Boy Scout collection. If You can at all make a drive, make the trip to Ohio, do it. This collection is beautiful. It's going through it one by one. I have enjoyed doing that, and you will enjoy it too, and you will find details to love and discover if you are a fan of Norman Rockwell, or if you're just a fan of good old Americana. You know, Norman Rockwell is one of those ones you can love on many, many different levels. And so mad props to him for that, and thank you guys all for joining me. Next week, since this was such a super special episode, I'm going to do what the real TV shows do, where you take a hiatus after the super special episode. So next week, I'm not going to be here. Week after that, June 3rd, 5 o'clock, also a special time, I will be taking you to Hedge Gallery at the 78th Street Studios to see Almost Real, which is Doug Max Utter and Liz Morgan's combined show of art that they created in the lockdown. Doug Max Utter is a Cleveland figurative art legend. Liz Morgan's is a Cleveland mover and shaker, printmaker extraordinaire, and just all-around artistic goddess. So you will definitely want to be there for that one. 5 o'clock, June 3rd, Eastern Standard Time. Same bat channel, but not the same bat time. Y'all come back now, you hear? 2 weeks.